time, give me space. Give me real, don't give me fake. Give me strength, reserve, control. Give me heart and give me soul.
Jim Jones, the leader of an American religious cult.
Jim Jones led over 900 of his followers into the mass suicide.
One of the biggest mass suicides in recorded history.
Go commit suicide.
Now notice what happens when he mentions this idea that you're going to go commit suicide. He puts his hands up to cover his face, to hide it somewhat. He's creating some distance there.
You mean you're going to go commit suicide?
He can't say that face on. He's got to create that barrier because there's some internal recognition that what he is doing is messed up.
It is primitive in comparison to the civilization of the level above human.
So here we have this motif that, or there's an advanced version of the world, this higher world, and again, with the layered dimensions of his framing on the video, he's trying to connect with his higher self, because this is just an illusion. So it's okay that you can kill yourself, you know. Everyone else can deal with the aftermath. You just go to that higher plane.
Another cycle. Instead, they see all of that as one civilization that has gone all of that time at least.
Here we see a referencing of the past and this idea that previous attempts at civilization or cycles have come and gone, and they've been recycled, and it creates a sense of, and then we're in that phase, and this one's going to come to an end as well. So you better get on board. It creates that sense of urgency.
They don't know how else to write because they have none of that knowledge in them. Or if they had it at one time, they...
So here he puts a move in to preemptively try and assert the frame as how people are going to react to the fact that he just convinced people to commit suicide. He's distancing himself from that. And in fact, he's going to introduce the idea that the people who would criticize must be wicked. I think what we see play out is that he did not attain fulfillment in his personal life. He didn't get a feeling of satisfaction. And so the logical conclusion is all of those things are evil. So relationships and knowledge and family, all of that is evil, and you must cast that all away and prepare for a higher world. And then you now weave in the figure of Christ, the historical Christ, to buttress your claim that that's what he was all about as well.
Everything in the human kingdom becomes distasteful to them. Every relationship they had, everything that their bodies had liked or was really addicted to, whether it was relationships or the pursuit of human knowledge.
And so what you gain in this is like a pale imitation of a meaningful life. You've now hollowed out the brain and autonomy of your followers and emulated the approximation of having people who genuinely care about you. And you've got to hollow out the brains of the people that pretend to love you or can only love you under extreme conditions of isolation and control. And so under there is a little weak boy who's desperate.
So the only reason we're doing this little tape right before our departure time is in case there are some that still might see this, because...
So there's a sort of thematic element there that no one will listen to me, no one will pay attention to me. The problem is the entire world is evil, and the only way I can get them to pay attention to me is to tell them that the entire world is going to be destroyed. Now will you listen to me? Now will you notice me?
If this connects with you. In other words, you can change rapidly. You can squeeze many years into a few days. Their bodies and their individuals are very similar to these in many respects, very similar to human bodies, except more refined. Is it significantly more refined? There are no males, there are no females.
So let's say someone is unable to fulfill what they feel is their status or validity with regard to their sexual identity. One alternative to compensating for that is to demonize male and femaleness altogether and dissolve it into a higher place where none of those things exist. And therefore, if you weren't able to get what you wanted, or you weren't able to attain the sexual validation, you can buffer your own dissatisfaction with this idea that the whole thing's evil. It isn't you, it's the system that's a problem, and that sort of shields you from the feeling of rejection. So that's not the only way that this dynamic would play out, but the way that that would end up working twofold is people who feel sexually awkward or sexual minorities might gravitate to someone who offers them this umbrella of protection, and a way to generate a feeling of self-worth, because of the sexual gratification or the sexual identity drive is very strong, and people have that attached to their entire identity. So to have that not sorted is to not have, for many people, the feeling that your own identity is not sorted. And so if you can't express yourself the way that you want, then it's your existence is under threat of extinction. And so that mentality, when applied to a survival algorithm, you can understand why reproduction is so tied to the motivation, because that's going to produce children. If you were trying to design a system that reproduces itself and has self-awareness, then the idea of identity, autonomy, and your sexual expression are all going to co-evolve with each other in a very strong way. So if that becomes frustrated, then you're going to look for other ways to manifest validity or worth for yourself. And so on one level, it might be that a charismatic leader sets themselves up as a power posturing, serotonin and dopaminergically mediated. So another variant of this type of pattern dynamic, a repackaging of it, would be someone who is using it to flex their sexual prowess, to demonstrate their validity, and then incorporating these same elements, the elements of a higher self, and gender is just a construct and you can dissolve it. And what that's going to happen is send out a magnet for people who have identity crises and who are also very agreeable. And then they will become food for the predator. They'll become food for the person in the pathological position to bolster up their pathological narcissism. So they think that they are awakened. But to most people looking at them, they would see that marker of possession. There's a vacancy there. There's something that has been removed. And it almost seems like nothing in life is actually this obvious. It almost seems like it's a parody. This is something that you might see in a movie where you're sort of making fun of being brainwashed and being a mindless drone. But very much it looks just like that. It looks like these people believe that they have found nirvana. But you just look at their eyes and they look, it's almost creepy. And you see the consistency here. So let's say what's going on here on a personality level. Where in the population are the traits that would leave someone susceptible to this? Where is that living? And we might look specifically, for example, on trait agreeableness. And these, which, often could be expressed as high gullibility, that these are the most gullible on the bell curve. But what's sad about it is they're also very kind, very loving. And one thing that cult leaders will do is try and use their followers as proof of their validity by saying, look how kind these people are. Obviously, what I'm teaching them must be true. You'll never find a kinder group of people on this planet. Therefore, what I'm saying is true and I have validity. But can you distinguish that from somebody else who you would consider pathological? The pathological nature of a leader coming up like this, these are the only people that are going to stick around. And so as kind of we discussed today, it will whittle down further and further until the only people that are willing to put up with your extreme version of your ideology are the people that are very, very outliers on the bell curve. But what's terrifying is that the idea that this isn't that inaccessible to the average person, that the average person could go down this trajectory without even realizing it and being ideologically possessed without any awareness of it, genuinely thinking that this isn't them.
It's the common thing for us to see each other as opposites of what we think we are. I'm so happy because my time is short here. If you come with us, but you have to know me. You have to trust me. You have to believe me. This is as scientific, this is as true could be, but you have to know me. As soon as you tell anyone else, they will be used as the instruments to have you not believe.